There's a third layer to this that almost nobody is ready to hear. It's not just that dopamine controls your actions. It's not just that it controls your desires. It slowly rewrites your identity. Because over time, your brain stops asking, "What should I do?" and starts asking something much more dangerous. What feels easiest right now? And if that becomes your default question, everything changes. You stop choosing based on long-term outcomes. You start choosing based on short-term relief. And relief is addictive because relief feels like progress. But it's not. It's escape. This is where the trap closes. Because once your brain links comfort to safety, it starts rejecting anything that feels uncomfortable. Not because it's harmful, because it's unfamiliar. Effort feels wrong. Discipline feels forced. Focus feels unnatural. And slowly, without noticing, you start building a life around avoidance. Avoiding hard work. Avoiding deep thinking. Avoiding silence. Avoiding anything that requires you to sit with yourself. And here's the part nobody says out loud. The more you avoid, the smaller your world becomes. Not physically, mentally. Because your brain adapts to whatever you feed it. Feed it stimulation, it demands more. Feed it comfort, it rejects discomfort. Feed it distraction, it fears stillness. And eventually, you don't just struggle with discipline, you lose the ability to be alone with your own mind. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because if you can't sit with your thoughts, you can't direct your life. You become reactive. Everything external starts controlling you. Notifications, messages, trends, opinions. Your attention becomes programmable. And once your attention is controlled, your behavior follows. And once your behavior is controlled, your outcomes are predictable. Not because you're weak, because your system was trained that way. This is why most people never break out. Not because they don't want to, because they don't even realize how deep the conditioning goes. They think the problem is motivation. They think the solution is discipline. But the real problem is dependence. Dependence on stimulation. Dependence on ease. Dependence on feeling good before doing anything. And as long as that dependency exists, discipline will always feel like resistance. But here's the shift. Real discipline is not about forcing yourself to act. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to escape. Someone who can sit in discomfort and not run. Someone who can feel boredom and not panic. Someone who can be still and not reach for stimulation. Because the moment you stop reacting, you start controlling. And control is built in moments nobody sees. The moment you feel the urge to check your phone and don't. The moment you want to quit and continue. The moment you feel discomfort and stay with it. Those moments are small, but they are everything. Because that's where rewiring happens. Not in big decisions, in repeated resistance. And here's the part that changes everything. At first, it feels empty. Then it feels uncomfortable. Then it feels boring. And then something shifts. Your brain stops craving constant input. Silence stops feeling threatening. Focus stops feeling forced. And effort starts to feel normal again. Not exciting, not dramatic, just natural. And that's when you realize something most people never will. The goal was never to feel motivated. The goal was to stop needing motivation. Because motivation is unstable. Control is stable. And stability is what builds everything. Not spikes, not bursts, not moments of intensity. Consistency. And consistency only exists when your brain is no longer dependent on stimulation. That's why most people keep restarting. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting to feel motivated. They're waiting for the right moment. But the right moment never comes. Because readiness is not a feeling. It's a decision repeated long enough until it becomes identity. And identity doesn't argue. Identity executes. So the real question is not, can you be disciplined? The real question is, can you sit in a moment that feels empty and not escape it? Because that moment is the doorway. And almost everyone turns around before they walk through it. That's why they stay stuck. That's why they keep repeating the same cycles. That's why nothing changes. But if you don't turn around, if you stay just a little longer than you want to, if you tolerate that empty phase without escaping, you cross something most people never reach. You stop reacting. You start directing. And once you reach that point, everything becomes different. Because now, your brain works for you, not against you.